Welcoming Tyrone Brooks, the ABCA podcast. I think it's 29 seasons in professional baseball. I checked on LinkedIn. It might be 30 now, but
MLB 29.
29. Thank God for LinkedIn updating profiles. MLB Senior Director of the Front Office and Field Staff Diversity Pipeline Program, but also one of our founding members of the Diversity Program with the ABCA. So, Tyrone, thank you for jumping on with me.
No, glad to be here.
I have so much respect for you and the work that you do and you continue to do. What drew you to a life of service?
For me, really, I was very lucky to get into the game of baseball when I did. As far as the opportunity, Hank Aaron created an opportunity for me and so many others to get into baseball through an internship program that he put together in Atlanta. And that was called the Career Initiative Program. And they've continued to expand that type of an opportunity there at the Braves, which shows their commitment to diversity in our game. But it was just something where when I got that opportunity, and as I continued to progress along in my career, even for myself at the time, I always tried to have my own little markers for myself to see where I was at each different stages. And obviously, I had goals of where I wanted to be. And at the time, I remember when I first broke in, I was probably very naive and telling myself I wanted to be a general manager in like 15 years. And here I was 22 years old. And, but just something that as I got more and more further along in my career, I realized it was more about, am I doing something that I love to do each and every day? Do I feel valued by the people I'm working with in the organization? And that's a big part. The people and the relationships are a huge part of our game in so many areas. And then, as I continue to progress in my own career, I also just thought about, hey, how can I help somebody else who also is trying to make their way? I was just very lucky, as far as when I initially applied to get into the Braves organization, and I sent out maybe like 3 or 4 resumes to like organizations. That's all I did at that time, and just got very lucky being at the right place, right time. But it changed the whole course of my life. And so that's something I'd never take that for granted, and want to see individuals, find something that they're passionate about, being a part of our game, and then hopefully doing it for hopefully the rest of their lives and enjoying it. And when you can have that satisfaction every day when you're doing something that you love, man, that's the greatest feeling. It's not like somebody's forcing you to do something. You're doing it because you love it. There's a lot of long hours for all the people that work in baseball, whether coaches, scouts, other front office people, whether you're on the business side of our game or you work on the grounds crew. And there's so many different things. Obviously, if you're an umpire also, there's so much that goes into this game. But when you take that much care and precision in what you're doing each and every day because you love what you're doing, there's nothing better than that. And that's where just having that chance to do something that I came into the game and was just trying to be a sponge to learn as much as I could each and every day from so many people that were way more experienced than me coming into the game. My background was a little limited from a playing standpoint, so I wanted to soak up as much as I could talking to people. And that's where, one, just being able to build relationships. Also, I feel like I've kind of lost a little bit of it now, but as a young executive, I had a pretty good memory. I can remember a lot of things. If I could look at something, I can remember it basically. and now it's maybe not quite as strong as it used to be, but just getting a chance to come in when I did in the Braves organization, where there were a lot of great people who also served as mentors to me, and by them putting the resources into me, they're also willing to share information and try to help me to get better, was something that I truly cherish. And that's something that I still value to this day. And that's why having those individuals in your lives that can really be impactful and helping you is tremendous. And that's why I just don't take it for granted. Having John Sherholtz, Dayton Moore, Paul Schneider, who's one of the legends in the game in scouting, and unfortunately passed away just about a year or so ago. Him, Roy Clark, who became the scouting director of the Braves. So many different. Frank Wren, who was the assistant GM, along with Dean Taylor, at different times when I was there. And then every stop that I've been to, that's the great thing of having those relationships that you make, meeting with people throughout the game, but also having places that I worked where everything felt truly like a family. And when you have that, man, that's just because you're going to spend so much time working with these individuals. So having that chance to be around each other, getting to know each other and their families, that's what makes this game just so special. And then obviously, even today as we're recording, we lost back on August 6th. We lost one of my coworkers, Billy Bean, who passed away from his fight from leukemia. Today was actually his service that took place, and just even how impactful he was in our game, and also he was involved in helping in that process when I came to MLB and being a part of that, and also having a chance to work with him. And I just truly just value the people I've had a chance that have impacted me in so many different ways. And, my job is to continue to spread that love and help folks to make their way into this game.
Do you need to have a scouting background to be in your position that you're in right now?
No, not at all. Not at all. I've had a variety of different experiences when it comes to being in a front office and different roles. The Braves were a very scouting driven organization when I first joined there. So just coming there, it sort of kind of became ingrained in my head. You know what? I might need to learn this side of it in addition to what I was doing on the admin side. And when I was into my first year, I had an individual. He had worked for the Braves. He had left and was now with another team at that point. And he happened to be stopping through, and he sat down with me, and I was meeting him for the first time. And he told me at that time, he said, if you can learn the rules and the admin side that you're doing right now with your job, and if you could also learn the evaluation side to go with it, if you have those abilities at that time, he says, you will always be in demand in this game. And that was something that always has resonated with me at that time. So I ended up doing as much as I could to go out, see games, outside of when I was doing all of my other stuff I was doing administratively, helping and scouting and PD, and just tried to be a sponge, taking road trips with our various scouts, the people in my office, Paul Snyder. And taking trips with him was always it was a blast, every day, or Dayton Moore, and seeing our minor league players. And that helped me. So when I went out as a scout full time, which I was at the end of my basically into my third year when I went out as a full-time scout. So I moved out to the Midwest, covered 6 states, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, also had North and South Dakota there in the Midwest, which was a tremendous experience. A lot of miles, a lot of driving, running around. That's why to this day, driving 3 hours is like nothing. It's like going to the grocery store for me at this point. But having that chance to do that job was something I learned so much about myself. And being every day where you have to be a self-starter, you decide where you're going to go, who you're going to see, and obviously in the Midwest with the weather, you just never know. I mean, that was before we had everything with our phones now and everything, but you had to sit sitting in the hotel or at home watching the Weather Channel, trying to figure out, wait, where am I going? Now, I'm dating myself, but that's how we had to do it back then. But it was something that now. I've been through so many other different processes in my different roles. So I've seen a lot of different things, working in different roles, leading people in front offices, in addition to evaluating on both the pro and amateur side. And it was just something that I kind of fell in love with as I went through it. There's that whole idea of trying to, hey, what am I assessing? What am I seeing with this player? And then being able to, obviously it's a lot of trial and error, as you know, in this game. And just seeing how these players then, develop, and kind of learning from your own mistakes too along the way. And I've had my share of mistakes, but I enjoyed it. Every place that I went to, I worked for Cleveland for 3 years on the pro side as a pro scout for them, where I was seeing major league and minor league games each and every day. And that was, for me, I love to travel. So just seeing other cities was also kind of a great thing to do that. Hey, somebody else is paying for it. I love it. This is even better. Being in ballparks, there's nothing better for me just when I'm in a ballpark and I can be in that setting. And then also just seeing a player and watching individuals and seeing, hey, over the course of the next 5 days, 6 days, what am I seeing? And then being able to put those puzzle pieces together. So, and that's also kind of led to some of the work that we're doing now. We actually run here at MLB. Coming up will be our 4th year of our diversity pipeline scouting coaching development program. And this program has been an instrumental way for us to get new talent into the industry, into both the scouting side and within coaching. And by having that chance to people to learn, like, for example, when I first broke in, the Braves actually had their own scout school at that time. So they were doing that for several years prior to me even joining there. And that was a very pivotal way for folks to get into the game with the Braves organization. And and I even later on had a chance to be involved in running it along with Dayton Moore during that time later on. And now having that chance to come kind of full circle and be involved in leading this entire process and having a great staff of people that help me that all are pretty much, for the most part, very much volunteering a lot of their time to do this. And we do it in a partnership with the Buck O'Neill Professional Scouts and Coaches Association, led by Steve Williams and Danny Montgomery. And those two individuals have been very pivotal in a lot of my career in helping me, even when I came in as a scout, getting to know them. So just having that case of what we're doing to try to help this next generation come in and just see that there's nothing better when you have somebody send you that text message or a call, let you know, hey, I got my start. I got my job. Now it's a matter of me just proving myself. And that's all you ever can ask for when you get an opportunity. How can I go about it, doing the job the best I can each and every day, and just taking it one step at a time, taking care of what's in front of you first and foremost, and then continue to try to keep doing the best you can to do your job. And that's what, when teams are looking at, when they evaluate their staff and personnel, there's certain things that are just expected, and having that work ethic to be, hey, I'm going to challenge myself each and every day, whether I'm in a scouting role where I'm every day deciding where I'm going to go, or if I'm a coach trying to help somebody and make an impact. It's just something that, this game creates so much opportunity for us to prove ourselves each and every day.
And there's not a lot of jobs. You have a lot of guys. I always pay attention to when you're doing the diversity pipeline, and there's a lot of candidates there. So what are some of the other skill sets besides work ethic? What are some of the other skill sets that are maybe separating the ones that maybe don't get an opportunity and the ones that do get an opportunity?
Yeah, one thing for sure now, the game is becoming more and more technical for sure. And that's something that, obviously I try to encourage individuals as they are trying to figure out, one, understand their skill set, understand what things you do well, what things that, hey, maybe some things I need to maybe improve upon. But obviously with so much data and analytics being a bigger part of our game, I try to kind of give folks some guidance on understanding, hey, make sure you're taking advantage of looking at what's out there from that standpoint. Understand your skill set, how you can get better. Now it's, obviously even now especially if you're trying to get into a front office, there's so much that's out there with information. Information is basically power in this game now. So everyone is clamoring for it, using information to make decisions and trying to make the best decision possible. So as much as you can make sure you've helped yourself as far as developing that skill set in some way, or even some type of project that you're doing, or just showing dedication to being involved. Say, there's so many individuals in our game that were like student managers at various schools. That's another great way for somebody to make their way into this game because of all the things you're going to be involved with, and whether technical or just the day-to-day of handling things. And obviously that director of baseball operations role, which is a key role in every coaching staff too within college baseball. That person is a lot of times is someone that really has to be able to fill a lot of various roles throughout, and can then in many cases make their way into almost any different area within our game of baseball. So it's just something that just trying to make sure people have that feeling, understand also, get a sense of how they are as far as understanding it, how they've demonstrated leadership in some way, in some capacity. And that right there can give you some sense about them, understand a little bit about their character, who they are, but then also just, what's their understanding of the game in various aspects. How do they follow the game? How do you, the one things that you truly have to be passionate about this game. I mean, if you're kind of got 1 foot out and 1 foot in, it's very difficult, even when it comes to, a lot of times I do get a chance to talk to a lot of former players and help them as they're in the process of their transition or making their way fully into coming to the other side of deciding what they want to do. And I always tell those individuals, say, play the game as long as you can. Get that opportunity, do it, keep doing it until they have to take the uniform off of it. You'll know when it's the time to move on and do something else. And if you're still thinking about, I still want to play, while you're trying to pursue something job wise, you're not going to be able to give your very best self to the process. So that's why, hey, go keep playing, play another year. I'll give you a great example. We have an individual that just a year ago, we were part of MLB. We were visiting a bunch of our MLB, their partner leagues that we have that are all throughout the country. Whether the Atlantic League, the Frontier, American Association, the Pioneer League. And as part of those visits, we were getting a chance. I was with Bo Porter, also Rajay Davis, my other colleague, and we were visiting these different players and different teams throughout the country, and getting a chance to get in front of those players just to make sure, just planting that seed about what a career in baseball can be for them when they do finish, and just encouraging them, hey, keep playing as long as you want to keep doing that. That's the biggest thing. But then understanding a case of, okay, when I'm ready. And I'll give you one example. During one of the very first visit we did, we were visiting in the Atlantic League. And at the time, we were visiting in Southern Maryland, and ended up having a chance to have a conversation with a guy who was a pitcher by the name of Jesse Estrada. And Jesse Estrada, Jesse, hopefully you don't mind me bringing this story up, but I have to bring it up. So I'm talking to Jesse. Well, we just finished doing our whole spiel, talking to everybody as a whole, and then now we're talking to some players individually. And Jesse and I start talking one-on-one, and he starts talking about, hey, I'm thinking about figuring out what's next. And while we're talking, I could literally, the tears just started rolling down his face. And he at the time, he was in his 19th year playing professional baseball. And he's like, I know my time is coming to an end. And now it's getting to that point where I got to figure out what's next. And I said, Jesse, hey, man, I'm glad to support you, stay in touch with you, and try to help you. And we stayed in touch throughout the end of that season. And as we got closer to where we're getting ready for this program with our scouting, coaching, development program, he said, Ty, you know what? I'm not quite ready. I want to play one more year. I want to play that 20th season. I want to get that out there. I want to do that. And I said, hey, Jesse, man, you're not hurting me in any way. You go do that. Play that 20th year. I mean, I want you to do that. And, he went out, played that 20th year this year. Unfortunately, he got released in the middle of that year, and we stayed in touch. And then he's like, you know what? Hey, I'm ready now. This is my time. I'm ready to take this next step. And now he's actually going to join us this year in our coaching development program. He'll be out in Arizona as we do that. And now this is his chance to get started, to hopefully take that next step as a pitching coach down the road. So really excited for him. Hopefully something will be able to happen for him with the exposure he's going to get through this program, getting a chance to work for a week in the fall league and have that opportunity. So really excited for him. But it's something that whole story just resonates with me, just being there with him and seeing that emotion. And it had me getting emotional, just kind of, and I was like, he's 6'9", I'm 5'10", and I'm like holding him up basically at that time and just hugging him, man. And just, but now here he is, when he sent me, we were talking when I told him that he was coming to this program, he was just so pumped and ready just for this opportunity. Now we're really excited for what the month of October is going to bring for him being a part of this.
When you were at Maryland, was professional baseball in the back of your mind?
Not really. I was thinking of I was a photographer when I was in college, so I did a lot of covering athletics at the University of Maryland. So I covered every major sport there, and every other sport. I mean, everything I covered, whether football, baseball, basketball, lacrosse, field hockey. I mean, I covered rugby, everything. I did it, and I enjoyed it, and it was my way to stay connected to sports. But I also realized, man, baseball has always been my first love since I was a 5-year-old. When I first stepped into Memorial Stadium to see my Orioles play and see my favorite player of all time, Eddie Murray, and that whole experience being there, and something that was important to me at that time was also seeing. And it's something that has resonated with me later on, especially, was the fact that I could see players on the field at the time that looked just like me. That resonated. And when I saw Eddie Murray, Ken Singleton, Al Bumry, that resonated with me. Hey, you know what? Maybe I can be a player, and that's where it fueled my love for playing the game of baseball. And so when that chance came about to have that opportunity to work in baseball, it was just something that, hey, It wasn't sure. I was interviewing for different jobs during my senior year, and something just wasn't right. I've got to do something in sports, but specifically I was hoping something could work out to be in baseball, and it worked out. And again, the opportunity to Hank Aaron and also Stan Kasten and also Ruby Lucas, who was the wife of, the widow of Bill Lucas, who was the first black general manager. That program and with the doors that opened for me, it totally changed the course of my life to have a chance to work in baseball.
Is there anything you haven't done in the game outside being the commissioner of Major League Baseball?
It's funny you say that, man. This game, it can humble you very quickly. I can remember even one time, I'll tell this story, where in my first year there with the Braves, I came in as an intern right before the baseball draft, so I was able to sit in, see all our staff there talking about players, and I was seeing guys I played with, guys I played against on our draft board. And then obviously on draft day, seeing their names get taken off the board and get their spots and getting started. And then, being there in that environment with the Braves, it was just such a level of excellence that was expected at that time. And I still, they believe they have that same type of, for a mantra as an organization. But just at that time, when I saw that, how that was every day, how I was just supposed to really just try to exceed expectations and doing my job and do my job to the best of my ability. That was something that was just important for me. And then also at the end of that year, I literally got hired full time in July. So it was literally right during when the Olympics was taking place at the time. And that was amazing just to see the Olympics. I didn't have any money to go out and buy a bunch of tickets for any Olympic events. Thankfully, I was here on the baseball side and I was in the ballpark for free, So I enjoyed that and see I just remember one of the things I remember from that whole time, especially with the Olympics that year. I remember watching when I think it was the Cuban team, they just taking infield, man. It was just magic. It's almost like they didn't have gloves on. The way it was just so magical and see how the hands and feet were moving. And then, that season being a part of something, the Braves had just won a World Series in 95. I'm there here in 96 and, having a case of just every night where you're rolling out Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, just having, even and Steve Avery at that time, and just having that kind of a pitching staff. I truly, later on, I realized how much I really took that for granted. In fact, you had those individuals that you just expected to win each night, and then the end of that year, I got promoted again. After here I had only been a full-time employee for a couple months, and I remember we were having our first big postseason meeting after we had just lost in the World Series, and I had done a bunch of work to kind of prep us as we were doing to get ready. But the day of the actual meeting, and I'll tell the story. It's kind of a little negative situation, but something where the day of the meeting, which was being held at Atlanta area airport hotel there, and I showed up probably 30 minutes before the meeting started, and to see the look on the face of our general manager John Schultz, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Ty, what time should you have probably been here?" And he said, and I said, "Well, I'm sorry." And he's like, "You should have probably been here before anybody, and make sure everything was set up." And I learned a lesson that day, as far as here I was the youngest employee at the time in our baseball ops department. And, I personally that day should have been there, hours before anybody just to make sure everything was all good and set up. And, I learned a lesson from that day, and something obviously still to this day, it still resonates here. Now that I'm 50 years old and, and have been in the game now for my 29th year, something that I just never forget that whole experience and how I was humbled that day. And, just something that, and that's where these lessons were people being willing to be open and honest, and tell you, and that was one thing about at least how he operated as far as his management style. So just to get that opportunity, it's something that I'll truly cherish, but I learned each and every step along the way, and don't take anything for granted.
Somebody from the outside looking in that says, okay, I can go be in the front office, I can go work in the front office. What do they need to hear about how difficult that job is?
Yeah, one, you got to be willing to put the time in, put the hours in. That's a huge element as far as that.
Is pay one of them too?
Yeah, pay is something. It has gotten a lot better as far as the game. Years ago, at the time when I first started, I was
that's
making
a supply and demand thing too.
Yeah.
Like when I would go talk to sports management program students, and they would all say, "Yeah, I want to work in professional baseball." I'm like, the average salary is like $30,000, and there'll be somebody that's very happy to take that salary and work in professional baseball.
Yeah.
And you can see the looks on their faces. They're like, "What?" Because I would have them throw out salaries, and they're like 200,000, 300,000. I'm like, no, the average salary back then, this is 15 years ago, I'm like, it's $30,000.
Right. Like, but I came in for $6 an hour, and I literally stayed on my cousin's couch for the first like month. And then he was like, and right around that time, right when I just got hired full time, he was like, "Hey, hey, my girl's about to move in with me, man. So you might need to start looking for a place." And thankfully, I was in a position to do so. And but just something that the game has definitely done better with as far as income, taking care of salaries and wages within Major League Baseball for sure, and that's helped. In many cases, create a more equitable path for anybody to come into the game. One of the things I was involved with when I joined MLB back in 2017, we created what's called the MLB Diversity Fellowship Program. And that's a full-time post-grad opportunity to work in baseball operations. And that has been a very impactful program for us here at Major League Baseball and getting folks into that. We've had nearly 80 or so fellows have come through the program. We've had a very high rate of about 90% of getting hired in full-time roles beyond that fellowship. But it's provided also, it also made us more competitive as an, giving us a chance to, in many cases, attract folks that we typically might have lost to another industry. Having a little bit better wage and salary as part of that has allowed that to kind of help bridge that gap and provide the opportunity. So, just really excited that, that program and being a chance to work closely with individuals. And I meet with the group, and help them as far as their professional development side, understanding. Also, they're building a network with each other. That's great. You're building those relationships because you never know when down the road you may be in a position to hire somebody else, and that's what they have. We've had a pretty good run of different speakers. Also, we meet normally twice a month over Zoom. We had a pretty crazy month during the month of like August. We had Reggie Jackson, Dusty Baker on. And actually, one of our last speakers was Neil Huntington, my old boss, who was a former GM of the Cleveland of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he was like, "Ty, man, I can't follow up these two guys." So, just having he came on and did a great job, and obviously Neil is an amazing executive and shared some great messages with individuals. But it's those people when you get a chance to meet others, building those relationships. That's something that's huge, and that's where even when. Even going to the ABCA convention, man, you get a chance to meet so many different people. And that's why, Parker, I love going to meet a whole new set of people every year that I'm going to run into and build relationships with people going forward. And there's individuals that some of the relationships I made back in last January, that opened up doors for us to make opportunities for them to come in further. Several are going to be in our scout and coaching development program, people I've met during the course of our time last year. So, earlier this year. So just having that case to do that. And that's where you're bringing your best self to the process of anything and just being your authentic self as well. And just having that chance to people to see who you are. And obviously your own reputation itself is also going to be very important in how you go about, how you've gone about handling yourself and one stop to the next. And that's the one thing too, about when individuals, sometimes there are going to be situations where there may not be an opportunity to get hired in a full-time role. But the other thing is, what kind of impression did you make? And can that person then recommend you for the next opportunity? And that can be a vital thing to let you continue on that journey to make your way toward a full-time opportunity in the game.
These next two are from Spencer Allen, by the way. So he wants to know, after your time in your current role, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of, one, the people that I've had a chance to really impact in some form, in some way, providing an opportunity. I'm hoping that's part of my legacy, the individuals that I've been able to help and see them go on to long, productive careers, long way past me being on this earth. And just seeing that, but also just all the great people that I've had a chance to build relationships. That's part of makes this game so special. But having that chance to see people coming in and doing something that they're going to love to do, that's huge for me. And just now, seeing them take those steps 1 year at a time, and that's one thing about you got to understand, and we all do. This game, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And obviously, as I told you, I had these old visions of, hey, I'm going to be a GM within 15 years, and it's more about, hey, are you going to do something that you're going to love to do, and you put yourself in a position, you're going to find a way to get to where you want to go, but you just can't worry about the true timetable of this or that. But if you can do something that you love every day, you're going to feel satisfied in what you're doing. And also, it's very important, having that person who may be in your life, that partner that can deal with that. My wife April, and she's been huge, and and just allow me to do what I love to do. And she understands sometimes it's this phone call or this email that comes in or something, and and obviously I want to try to help, but it's tough sometimes to turn things off when it comes to things. But just having the chance to try to do as much as I can to help people is something that I really try to live for.
Next one. Any frustrations with things we haven't been able to get done yet?
I definitely want to see, working with Carrick and here with the committee here at the ABCA, Diversity in Baseball Committee, just wanting to see more and more progress for our individuals getting into these Power Four schools and getting into major roles as assistant coaches, as head coaches. That's something that it's something we're still trying to delve as far as helping individuals to put themselves in a position. But it's obviously there's a lot of little things that are out of our control, when it comes to the hiring process with, many universities and colleges. So, but just wanting to see individuals that are really talented, that may be at an HBCU as an assistant, as a head coach, see them get to where they may want to go. Make sure there's mobility for individuals to get to where that next role that they may be looking to do. And that's something that, with the leadership of Carrick Jackson, we're trying to push toward and see that. And, it's just something that, individuals each and every day are putting them and their families on the line, doing their job, obviously trying to win games and build a program. And, but there are a lot of talented individuals that are out there that deserve more recognition and should have that chance, hopefully, for mobility to go into an opportunity that's going to help better themselves, their family as well.
And Carrick wants me to have you talk about the basically the progress and kind of how it started and where it's at. And I am proud of you guys because I think every year it's gotten better and better. I mean, it was a whole day event this past year at the Grapevine. Like, that was a whole day. There were people there all day on, I think, Saturday. And I thought, for me, I'm like, having gone to the convention as long as I have, and you saw what it was 20 years ago, and then you look at this and like, okay, we have a whole day going on for people to try to connect with each other.
Yeah, that's where, the relationships and just trying to also just break down barriers, having folks from all different backgrounds coming together who, maybe somebody has never had a chance to talk to Tim Corbin, or just having that chance to talk to another assistant coach at a program. Maybe you're somebody who's trying to break in. Maybe currently you're on the youth side doing stuff in your community, but having a chance to also meet with some of these different college coaches that you never know where a relationship could be built. And obviously there's an opportunity maybe for a player that you have also to find an avenue to go somewhere. And that's where just making those connections and taking those steps are vital as we continue to try to grow this platform to help the ABCA and also just help our members to make sure they're finding those right pathways for themselves to hopefully do something and find that level where they're trying to get to.
When did you start the Baseball Industry Network?
Yeah, so I started the Baseball Industry Network back in 2009. So it's been 15 years now, and it's funny. The actual anniversary date was August 28th of 2009, and for me, I had really at the time hadn't been on LinkedIn very much as far as being on that platform, and I was like, I saw there were baseball people on there, but they were just scattered everywhere, and I said, let me come up with a concept to bring baseball people together, and also those that are trying to maybe make their way into the game of baseball, understanding you cannot do this by yourself. And that's where it just kind of grew very organically, as far as I was reaching out to people, many of whom I didn't know whatsoever, but I was telling them, hey, I'm trying to build this out. Would love you to be a part of it and build it. And then next, at the time also, when you can see other people joining, you're like, oh, yeah, wow, I want to join that group too, and it just kind of grew from there. And immediately within a couple months, we were at about 3,000 members. And then just before you know it, it was growing annually to about 6,000 or 7,000 per year. And, now we're literally at over like 47 or so thousand members at this point, just having so many different people that have been coming together to be a part of this. Also, one of my really good friends, Chad Capelman, who I went to college with, he was right there talking to me when I was first trying to put this whole idea together. And, he's someone that, we're looking to continue to do some great things in general with the group itself, and do some things that are going to, we have an event every year we do at the baseball winter meetings. And, it's grown from the point when I was first starting everything, literally just trying to bum rush the lobby and find any little place to meet during the winter meetings to bring people together. And then eventually getting more of our teams involved and having some of the people that were doing a lot of the hiring coming down, being a part of it, looking for talent. And then, then once I got to Major League Baseball at our headquarters, it was like, oh, all of a sudden I'm like in the big leagues as far as being able to really do it in a bigger platform, and having, now our last event we had at the winter meetings, we had over 600 people, and we're going to have I expect another big turnout. This year, the baseball winter meetings are going to be in Dallas. So we'll have our diversity pipeline program. We do a reception typically there, and that'll take place on December 9th. And then on the 10th, we'll actually have the Baseball Industry Network event. We also do a really, really great event for getting more women into baseball. That's on December 7th and 8th, called Take the Field. The applications are actually open for anybody that would like to look for that. If you go to our MLB.com website, they'll be able to access that. So, and then we also created a new event last year called Advancing Bases, which has been focused on helping diverse employees, with a focus primarily on diverse employees, helping them to make their way, both those that are early in their careers, continue to advance, and also those that are trying to break in. And this year, that's going to actually be held December 11th and 12th at the winter meeting. So, just coming up systematically, there's a series of different events to try to help bring people into that arena and bring people in a position to talk to hiring managers with different teams. Because, once you get a chance to meet with somebody face to face, hey, that's your opportunity to make an impression. So you just never know where things can kind of go from there. I still remember my very first baseball winter meetings, where it was in Nashville, actually in New Orleans that year. I had never been to New Orleans, so it was like, wow, a chance to go to New Orleans, and just that chance to meet so many different people when I was, literally still in my early stages of just over a year in the game of baseball, and just to see people, talk to people, and before you know it, you're building a relationship and building camaraderie with people all across the game. So, definitely putting yourself out there, just like when you're at the ABCA convention, having a chance to meet people in so many different areas, so many backgrounds. It's amazing. I'm always just super impressed by all the vendors and all that are there at the ABCA, and just seeing everything. It's almost mind-boggling to think all these folks that are part of our industry in so many different ways, and how they're having products that are making an impact in our game in some form. So just something that, thank the ABCA for doing such great work, and every year putting that together. When did you get involved with the Andre Dawson Classic? Yeah, so the Andre Dawson Classic, when I joined MLB back in 2016, I just thought, hey, this is a great way for us. We have all these teams playing together in this one area, one venue. At the time we were doing it, and it was in New Orleans, and now it's since moved down to our complex in Vero Beach, Florida, the Jackie Robinson Training Center. And, it's something where you have all these individuals that are right there, literally, that are playing the game of baseball. And one of the things I said, let's make sure we get in front of them to help spread that message about what a career in baseball can look like. Obviously their first priority is, hey, this is the beginning of the season. your first, like typically your first opening series, you're ready to win, you're ready to play. Man, you've been doing things indoors if you've had to, or just you're just ready to play and get out on the field. But it's also, we're trying to plant that seed about what a career in baseball can be like. And something may not happen right at that month, or 2 weeks from now. It might be 6 weeks, it may be a year, maybe 2 years. And it's funny how we've had various success stories where I had an individual that I had a chance to meet there at the Andre Dawson Classic in one of my first years doing it. And, we ended up staying in touch. And then literally, after he actually graduated, but still stayed in touch with them. And then literally, it was funny. And just a couple years ago, I was coming on my way down to the Andre Dawson Classic, and I got the call that day from him, which from the Pittsburgh Pirates, that he had just been hired as their diversity fellow in our program. And he was someone that whole the whole initiation process was started there at the Andre Dawson Classic. So Jalen Heath is his name. He's a young executive with the Pittsburgh Pirates doing great things. And he was actually the valedictorian of his graduating class at Grambling University, in addition to playing baseball. So that idea of seeing him, talking to him, and he pulled me aside even back then, just like, hey, just curious about what it's like to work in the game. How do you go about doing it? And I was an amazing student as an accounting major, and then ended up working for an accounting firm. And even when he had just a little bit of time, I was helping he was able to get a part-time gig there in Houston where he was working at the time. And just, he wanted to stay involved in the game in some way. And I said, hey, this is here. We still have this opportunity here for you. And literally the following year, he was now fully in the game, in an opportunity now to really put himself on a great pathway as an executive.
I mean, it's part of the weeding out process is that it's supposed to be hard. I try to relay that to people. My dad used to say it like, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Like, is that part of the weeding out process? That it is difficult. There's not very many jobs, but does that really prove who wants to be in it and who doesn't?
It is. You got to remember, you're going to have a lot of rejection. There's going to be a lot of no's. So you have to be someone, hey, I can persevere, and I don't care what they say. I'm going to find my path and make my way in. And you truly have to have that kind of a mindset, because but the goal is, you just need one team, one organization to believe in you. That's all it takes. The same way with a player, when they get drafted, the team that wanted them the most was that one team that was able to pull the trigger and get that player. And that's what you have to do. You have to kind of have the whole idea, hey, I'll take no, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. We had a case even this year. I'll give you a story where an individual that is going to be in our scouting development program coming up in October. This was his 4th year applying. We rejected him for 3 years, but he continued. He applied again, but he also put himself out there. He was going out to games, writing reports, and you could see the improvement, and you can also see just the passion of wanting to get in. And there was no way we could turn him away, because he fully had shown he was ready to take that next step. And for many, it could be a case where it's 1 or 2 years. Somebody says no, you really, I'm done. Maybe I'll just do something else. Maybe I'm just not good enough. But he had the perseverance to want to do that. So Christopher Reyes, giving you a little shout out, man. So just excited for you, this chance that you have. Looking forward to you impressing all of our staff coming up in Phoenix.
What would you like to see for the future of amateur baseball?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of great work that's being done in so many different ways. I work with a great group of people that are with Tony Regans, who's our chief baseball development officer, Del Matthews. We have a lot of individuals also in the softball space that are doing really great things, and it's just, you just want to love to make sure that kids get as much access as they can to the best instruction that they can have, opportunities to help put them in a better position. So Tony and Dell especially have just done a great job in going about it to make sure giving individuals access they need and that exposure, being able to play in events that we can put together that are creating a pathway for individuals and making sure that they can find that place for them. One, they're going to be around others that also can look just like them also. And they're going to build that network, but also learning from a lot of really top-notch individuals that have played the game at a very, very high level, who are willing to pour their resources and energy into that individual as they have a chance to attend some of our various events. So that's something that I know that's a huge element. Also just you want to make sure as many kids can just have access to the game. And obviously Nike in partnership with RBI has now grown to the point where they are now, and just trying to make sure that the game is being out there. Also that it's being put together at an even higher level. So I've had a chance to go down to the Nike RBI World Series and speak to these individuals too, as well, and just planting that seed about what a career in baseball can be like, and just seeing the passion and the fun that these kids are playing and the drive. I just feel like every kid should just have a chance to play the game, want to get access to it first and foremost at a very young level. So that's where even a lot of work that we're doing with our groups work with Play Ball, which has been a great initiative in partnership with USA Baseball and all that. Make sure that getting the game out there for any kid. That whole idea of bat and ball. You understand you can do so many things. Probably you were probably like me as a kid. You just do anything. Go on a tennis court. You didn't need a whole
garage out back.
Yeah, I have a brick wall right there. Draw my little batter's box and everything. Then also draw our strike zone and everything. Let's go. That's how it was. And just finding ways to do that. So, obviously every little league coach, that's out there, man, they have such a great opportunity to want to help a kid fall in love with the game of baseball. It's funny, my first coach I had in Little League when I was 5, and I still talk to him to this day, Tony Leone, great man here in the Baltimore area that at the time when I was a kid, I ended up being on his same team from age 5 to age 12. And it's just, here I wasn't at the time. I was a left-handed catcher, and he called me Elrod. That was my name, Elrod Hendricks. And, just having how he made the game fun for me and my teammates. And that's what it's all about. And now I get to see my son, who is 9 years old, and watch out, college coaches, man. He's coming, man. He throws with both arms. He's a left-handed hitter. Man, he might be pretty special down the road. They already said he's going to be about 6'4", so we'll see. So, but just, his love for the game is amazing. For me, also, too, back in the day, baseball cards were so critical for me. And that is what helped me understanding like statistics and that's where I could eventually, back then, I could recollect any little fact because of baseball cards and numbers. I knew exactly what somebody hit, what somebody's ERA was. And, now we have other tools. I'll give an example. My son has just loved playing MLB The Show. And that is, and I bought the game back in like March or May of April, like 23. And I've seen him love the game. His passion for the game has been fueled so much just by that game itself.
Well, Negro League options now too, correct? Yeah, which is tremendous.
And I love that. And that's been great for people to know and understand the path that was formed way before we had a chance. And that's where starting that opportunity. I've also been a part of the Buck O'Neill Professional Scouts and Coach Association since it started, and it's been now like about 25 years. We're actually going to have our annual conference will be in Atlanta the weekend of November 7th through the 10th. And Danny Montgomery and Steve Williams, who are the leadership there, are running this. I mean, we had a chance when Buck was still alive to be around him and talk to him. And he obviously graciously allowed us to use his name. And, one of my greatest moments, I just remember being in Kansas City at one of our conferences. Buck was right there. We're in the gym theater right across from the Negro League Baseball Museum. Bob Kendrick is there. And Buck is just telling these stories. It's got us just laughing. And but also you could see that, he wasn't bitter by the hand that he was dealt. And, just to be around him. And we literally, all of us were trying not to cry in front of him because it was just, I'm getting emotional now thinking about it. But I mean, just Buck, what he meant to me and so much of us in our organization and everyone. And, to also just have the chance to be there in Cooperstown when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame was a really special moment for me and so many others. Because Buck was all about, as Bob Kendrick can tell you, man, Buck was all about helping everybody else. He wanted to see them all get in the Hall of Fame. And that year when so many players did go in and he didn't get in that year, he was all about, hey, who got in, amongst that group. And obviously Bob is the greatest storyteller probably on this face of the earth right now in the world. And hearing, I remember just being there that day at Cooperstown and seeing Bob and talking to him and just hugging him as I was just crying and just emotional wreck because of, finally, Buck was getting his chance. And it's just something that it's great how the Negro Leagues is continuing to have a presence in our society today.
And especially right after convention time, we always have coaches reach out to us and how they can affect change in their area. So say a coach just in his own area, how can they start to affect some change? Because we get that a lot right after the convention. People are like, how can I help? I want to help. How can somebody affect change in their own area?
Yeah, I think part of that is one, there are a lot of resources that are available. If people look at our MLB.com website, our baseball, softball development team is all right there listed for people to reach out on there. We do a lot of stuff also on social media. People can reach out, but that's a great start. Also, many people may not be fully aware of the MLBPA Youth Development Foundation, and this is a true partnership between MLB and the PA. With the idea of helping to build bridges, help to create opportunity when it comes to, whether a park or a field, trying to do things that are going to help hopefully galvanize the community and bring baseball as a part of that. So there's a lot of great work that's being done on that end. Thanks to Gene Batris, who's the executive director of that and works closely with the PA on that. So definitely something that people should be looking at. Information on the YDF is right there on the website there at MLB.com as well. Mm-hmm.
You started out in it, and I feel like you're a great example of the old guard trying to help the new guard. Are we missing a little bit of that now with the older generation, or maybe even the younger generation not reaching out to the older generation because they don't think the older generation knows that much? Are we missing some of that now?
I probably in some cases, I think there is, it's always, you got to understand where somebody's been, and the path that they've gone. But also for me, I've always been so respectful and wanting to learn from so many others. And you got to kind of have that kind of a mindset. If you're a young player or a young person who's trying to break in, there's so many other things we can learn from somebody who's already been more experienced and done things in our game. So just having that type of a mentality is pretty important. And you just never know where that person may be able to help guide you and put you in the right place where you're trying to go. And that's something that I've seen and just even in my own career, having people that I looked up to being willing to help me and wanting to see me do well. And that's something that we just need to, try to be the bridge to help bring people together in general so they can hopefully find their pathway where they want to go and be a part of this great game.
And going from scouting to front office, not an easy transition. Who helped kind of smooth that out for you? Because there's a lot. Obviously, scouting is difficult, but being in front office is difficult too. So who helped you kind of smooth that transition out?
Yeah, definitely for that. One thing about the game of baseball, one thing I learned quickly. So when I started off in the front office, and then when I went out in the field for several years, came back, I realized the game changes and evolves so quickly. Literally, after 3 years, you realize so much can change, and just that quickly. I noticed that, and then I went back in the front office. Then I went back out in the field again for another 3 years, and then I noticed again how much the game can change. So it's just something that you've got to make sure you're staying on top of things as much as you can and understanding. And but it definitely, when you get in a position to lead people where you're involved in running and making decisions, but it's not always about you. It's truly about, hey, what are we doing that's going to be for the best interest of our organization going forward? And that's where having that kind of a mindset. I'm very blessed to have had an opportunity to work in Pittsburgh with the Pirates, and it was something that at the time, I wanted to get back into a front office. I missed that whole day to day of being around what's going on with the club and the transactions that are happening. We're seeing what's happening with the organization day to day. And after being in the field for several years, and it was one thing where just coming in, where we literally, my first year in Pittsburgh, we lost 105 games, and I don't wish that on anybody. It is extremely difficult to deal with that each and every night. But to see how the things were taking shape, obviously with Clint Hurdle coming in, becoming the manager of the club, and also having the young players that were coming along, seeing them develop and grow, but also bringing in the right free agents that came in that we had, like Russell Martin, AJ Burnett, Frankie Francisco Liriano, having those individuals that came in, the one that were impactful, but also they were good clubhouse guys that also could help push you as far as having that momentum. That was a huge thing. And I can just remember even like in a couple of years prior to us making the playoffs, and like I remember like we made the playoffs in 2013, but I remember like in 2011 or 12, it was like we were hoping to win each night. But when you can have a case where you truly believe that you can win, that's right there is when you truly know you're in the right spot at that point, where you're going in the right direction. And that's when we finally had that. For me, still one of the greatest baseball moments, or me as a fan, was being there at the wild card game in 2013 with the Reds and the Pirates playing. Everybody remembers Johnny Cueto dropping the ball and then Russell Martin hitting that home run right after. I mean, that was just such an amazing atmosphere. And even before the game started, I'll even bring back where I remember just even walking out on the streets of Pittsburgh right outside the stadium and seeing people hours before the game was even started that are just Andrew McCutcheon and Jeff Carson's, two of our players, that said, hey, we want to make sure there's a blackout. And everybody was wearing black, and just seeing a city just so totally, man, it was like the vibe of like a Who song, man. Everybody was just truly just like, we won't get fooled again, man. Just like everybody's just going crazy, and just that kind of a vibe. And to see that environment was amazing. And just to see that. And then, but another part of it too that I truly appreciate was at the time, our organization, and that's where we got to thank Neil Huntington, and also our owner, Bob Nutting at the time. He was the owner of the Pirates. He truly brought in all of our staff from wherever they were in the world, our scouts in Japan, our scouts in the DR, all of our coaches, all of our athletic trainers, everyone, our strength coaches, no matter where they were in the world, they were there in Pittsburgh for that wild card game. And it was only a chance of just being one game, but they were all there. And I can just remember, even before first pitch, just realizing how special a moment it was, because here we all were there together. And it was something that we built that all together. It was something that everyone was very selfless in how they went about doing their job each and every day. And in all of the front office, even on the business side, and how everyone was just building to that, to be that moment. And to then win that game was something that I'll just never forget. It's something that I truly, truly cherish.
The changes in the game, you talked about ever evolving, is usually dictated by whoever wins the World Series.
What's that?
The changes in the game and how it evolves, is it usually dictated by who? Yeah. It is, isn't it? Like usually it's like, okay, one team gets something figured out, and then everybody else is kind of playing catch up to get to that point.
Truly. It's amazing how I remember, well, when the Moneyball book came out, just when that book came out, and I remember like the composition of front offices back then, there was a lot more former players in general that were there in front offices, et cetera. And once that book came in, it helped change the landscape as far as the people that would normally probably go into different fields, like banking or things like that. All of a sudden, hey, they had some background or maybe in baseball, they came into the game of baseball, and it truly has created obviously an opportunity for anybody to be a part of our game. And that's one of the great things about the way the game is now. Anyone can have a career in our game of baseball.
Michael Lewis, I doubt he listens to this. That's who wrote Moneyball. I do think he's one of our best American journalists, but I do want him to write in addition to that and talk about how good that Oakland A's pitching staff was that year.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that nobody ever brings up. Like, the book doesn't bring it up. The movie didn't really bring it up. they had one of the best pitching staffs in baseball also.
Yeah. I'll tell you, even in a couple years prior to that year, in 2000, I was advancing. I was with Atlanta, but I was advancing the Oakland A's, watching them just in case.
Were you part of the Dan Meyer trade?
Yeah.
He pitched for me at James Madison.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still
for people that don't know that, Dan Meyer was in the Tim Hudson trade, so.
Yeah, I helped with our staff and we were doing a lot, trying to figure out, hey, how much as far as that trade and also the extension for Hudson and everything too during that time. But, just even in 2000, I remember watching Oakland at that moment, with the players that they had with Giambi and Tejada and Eric Chavez and just seeing in the pitching staff, obviously with Hudson and Zito and Mulder and everything. I mean, it was like you could see they were coming.
Hausen was on that staff too, wasn't he?
Yeah, and you could just see it. And I remember that was an amazing run. I picked them up in the middle of September of that year, and we ended up going through. It was funny. We went through Tampa. We had a hurricane. We had to dodge the hurricane and get up to Baltimore. I went back to my hometown, and that was the first time I ever scouted a game in my old home ballpark there, basically in Camden Yards, and then go to Seattle. And then finally back in Oakland and watch them clinch the division there at the end of the season right there. And that was an amazing run. And even the following year, 2001, in a role in advancing, getting ready for the playoffs, I got a chance to see Barry Bonds make history. And following that, I picked him up when he had 67 home runs, and just to see just how good a hitter he was and very few pitches he was actually getting during the course of that time. And I can vividly remember just in the series when he hit number 70, which was against Houston, which was then Enron Field at the time. And I can just remember where literally that whole entire series, he did not get hardly anything to hit. And then finally, his last at bat, they actually went ahead and they challenged him. They brought in a young rookie who was a hard thrower from the left side. And man, he hit the ball there for number 70. It's like still going, man. It was like a cannon going off inside there. And just to see that, and then they go back to San Francisco and to see him hit 71 and 72. And actually that night, you may not be aware of this, but that night with the Giants losing, they actually were eliminated from playoff contention. So they actually sent me and my partner, they sent us home right after that game, actually. So I missed when he hit 73 a couple of days later. I actually stayed in the Bay Area for another day or so and ended up seeing the Cowboys play the Raiders in the game. So that was an amazing run just to see Barry and how good a hitter. And that's why I just have so much, adoration for how he was as a hitter in the game and just how he was able to manage with all that. And obviously you look at his numbers, they as far as things, they just how many walks he was getting.
He shrunk the zone.
It was amazing.
He's so good at shrinking the zone.
Yeah. Just it's amazing. So,
do you have a fail forward moment? Could be personal, professional, something you thought was going to set you back, but looking back now, it helped you move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, there was, definitely that moment I mentioned earlier, just a chance where I was I got humbled early on. That truly was something that's always resonated with me. Just having that. And I remember one other time where I was like busting my butt doing something, but I still didn't finish in how I should have got it done. And I just remember just that feeling of that little bit of disappointment in me, at that moment, and realizing, hey, I've got to do better. And either whether I'm organizing my time or things, just figure out how to make sure I'm exceeding expectations in everything that I do.
Yeah, and that's why I asked that question, because that's a great example for both of those. Yeah, we're all going to make mistakes, but you learn from it and you move on and you find a way to get better from it. And then obviously, hopefully it doesn't happen again. I think that's what all successful people do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, definitely for anyone that wants to work in the game of baseball, having that love and the drive is vital. And also just, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And even as we get ready for our scout school here, it's coming up. I was just talking to somebody about it yesterday. Individuals are going to learn a lot about themselves in the first couple of days because they're going to realize they don't have it all figured out. And also just getting a chance to have that opportunity to showcase their ability, what they're seeing, but also, even with scouting, it's a process that is learned. It's not something you pick up fully overnight and can immediately. Sometimes you'll have issues. Maybe there's the terminology, or just being able to, maybe you have a better understanding of one area, hitting or something versus pitching. But being able to then eventually pick those things up and help improve to put yourself. But you have to have that drive to want to keep pushing and making yourself better each and every day. And that's one of the things we look at when we look at the whole full body of our scout development program. Is looking at, hey, what improvement did this person make from the very start to the end? We've also had a great opportunity over the last, since we started the program, being able to remember a couple of fallen scouts that were very impactful while they were in this world, on this earth. Charles Peterson, Kelly Rodman were two scouts that we lost back in 2020. And we've been able to honor them each and every year and give out an award during our program. And that's something that is, something that we truly are very thankful for what they gave to the game of baseball, but also just, unfortunately how their lives were cut way too short. But also just their spirit is always still something that we will always remember. And hopefully that's going to be something else also going to fuel that person and winning and knowing this award is very important.
By the way, you're getting me choked up talking about Charles now.
Yeah.
He was one of my favorites. He and I spent a lot of time on the road together when I was coaching at Iowa.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Hey, how can white coaches be advocates for other diversity coaches getting into the game? Because that's the other question we always get around the convention time is, like, how can I help? One is, I think for me, I have helped some diverse candidates get jobs. And I think one of it is just keeping their names in the forefront of your mind when you do get calls about jobs and recommending people for jobs.
Yeah, a big part of that is really just being willing to step outside of your comfort zone. And, have you gone about, hey, have you made that extra phone call? Have you gotten to know somebody that you may have not normally been around? And that's why Carrick is able to do some different things, bringing various coaches together that may have not been around this person or that person. That's important because there's a bond that now is being created in a relationship. And obviously relationships matter so much in the game of baseball, especially within the coaching community. So having a case where you're being out there to kind of put yourself out there as a coach and being willing to listen and not just be thinking about your own your own little personal network that you may have, but just trying to look out beyond that. Because you may find somebody who truly has an ability that could also be a fit on your particular staff. So just having that kind of a mindset of, having a chance while you're even out in something like the ABCA, getting a chance to meet other people that you may normally not have a chance to cross paths with.
What about on the player side? How can we help on the player side?
Yeah, I think the player side, especially as far as, providing the resources that players need in so many ways. The exposure, I realize, now with travel baseball is a huge element. That's just part of the landscape of things. But, providing an opportunity for someone to have a chance to do some things, but also just from a skill set standpoint, the fundamentals of our game and making sure, reaching back to even maybe other communities that may be neighboring communities that you may not normally go to. Where maybe there is a clinic that can be put together, some different way to make sure coaches are also educated on different things and make sure players have an understanding, as far as what things fundamentally they may want to be doing better. But it's all just starting that kind of building those bridges that can allow and provide an opportunity.
How pumped are you about the ABCA being in your backyard?
Oh man, I'm excited. I'm truly, truly excited. This is going to be great. It's just nice to. I love the travel, but it's nice when it's not too far right there, and it's gonna be really, really exciting to have it. And obviously it's a great property right there, and loving. That's a lot of the Gaylord properties, which are really, really nice in general. So I'm looking forward to it, and it should be just a really great event in general. So I just hope everyone will be able to make the trip and be there and really enjoy the experience.
What are some final thoughts before I let you go? Or maybe something I should have asked you that I didn't?
I know for me, just one, it's just amazing every day when you meet somebody new and something you may pick up and may learn. And that's where when you have an opportunity, especially at the ABCA, especially at some of the hot stoves and or just me in general walking around the venue itself, there's somebody, you have something in common. You should have a love of the game of baseball first and foremost. And you just never know where there can be that ability to find someone that has that additional commonality or some other area. I kind of call them, well, from things I learned years ago, people kind of call them coins. You just never know where there's little links that you all have that can kind of connect you all. And, and just to see, also just how the game has continued to evolve and see even more women come into the game of baseball is also a really, really great plus too. And to see a lot more women coming to the convention as well. And also seeing, I also get a chance normally to speak at the softball coaches convention, the NFCA, and just to see, having a chance to be a part of, both sides and seeing it. It's great, just the bond that each side does have as associations, but also just the coaches in general, how much they're committed to do some things. And, even this year, as we get ready for our scouting, coaching development program, we're going to we have some folks that are coming from the softball space also that are also going to be in our program. They're going to have a chance to make that transition potentially to make their way into the game of baseball. So many, many great things that are in front of all of us, and hopefully just the chance to continue to build those bridges and build relationships, which truly, truly matter. And I always tell people, you cannot be successful in this game by yourself. There has to be others who see something in you that also pour those resources in you, want to help you, want to see you do well in order for you to take it to the level that you want to get to.
Tyrone, thanks for your time, man. This was awesome. So you're an unbelievable example of paying it forward for the next generation. So I thank you for your time and all the work that you do for us. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Really excited to be looking forward to a great convention here coming up and all the great work that the ABCA is doing. So thank you so much. Mm-hmm.